Good morning. I will start this presentation with a brief introduction of my organization. We are the specialized agency of the United Nations dealing with issues connected to food and agriculture in a very broad sense, which includes genetic resources, natural resources, etc. We have offices all around the world. Our headquarters are in Rome, in Italy, but have regional offices in Santiago, Bangkok, Accra, Budapest, and Cairo, plus a number of country offices. As part of the UN system, we work with the 6 languages of the UN, English, French, Spanish, Latin languages, plus Arabic, Chinese, and Russian. We have, as you know, very special characteristics. We have a website which is not totally multilingual, but at least the more important parts or more visible parts are available in the 6 languages, but a lot of information could be in 1 or 2, I mean, particularly English and French. We originate most of the content in English. Very few content is done by our regional offices. So in that case, the source language could be Spanish, Arabic, or French, basically. Our website has about 5.5 million visits per month. This is the homepage of the website and the URL, FAO.org. And now, even if we are in a multilingual web workshop, I wanted to discuss a little bit how we are now approaching our publications, which are posted on the web. We have about 12,000 online publications. We started building our repository in 1999, and we're one of the first organizations putting all our publications online in the year 2000. We have about 7 million downloads per month. You see, we receive more downloads of our publication than visits to our website, and that's basically by the nature of the organization. Being a knowledge organization, most of the things we do materialize in a publication. As I said, we originate mostly in English, so we produce about 450 originals in English, and then most of the other language versions are translations. Very few in Arabic, Russian. Chinese is missing, but it's also the same. And now we have started publishing also in EPUB in MOBI formats, I mean in ebook format. We started last year, and we started with the first 25, and the downloads are very limited if you see the numbers compared to the millions of the website. But we are now evolving and changing a strategy on how we will move on this. Our FAO documents repository has these characteristics that are probably very common to any documentation repository. We produce our publications and post them on our website. There is a database behind, I mean, with the classical fields for publications. All of them are published in PDF format. The layout is normally very simple, 1 column or 2 columns. And as any PDF, the fonts are embedded, and the metadata, as I said, is part of the catalog, which is an external database. Now that we are moving more and more towards EPUB, these are the changes that we are experiencing, and at the same time, the challenges we are facing. First is that EPUBs cannot be found, I mean, are not normally found on our website because nobody knows they are there. So to reach their audiences with EPUB, we have to go where the people normally will look for them, and that is Amazon.com and a series of websites, Kobo, I mean, the websites that are created by the manufacturers of the readers. They have their own libraries, and normally people with a Kindle will go to the Kindle store to find publications. So the challenge for us has been to position our publications in those shops, which is a particular challenge. The other ones are the different standards. As you probably know, and that's why I'm talking about this today, the EPUB format is basically a zip file containing HTML5 and CSS code. So it's basically a EPUB format is basically HTML. So that's the linkage to the discussions today on the web. So in an e-reader, there are no columns. Basically, the text is fluid. The pagination is different, as you know. There are many legal issues with fonts. The fact that the fonts that are using a PDF or when creating the publications are intended for that use, and they should not be distributed openly with the EPUB. As I said, the EPUB is a container, it's a zip with a lot of files inside, so even the font is inside. So there are methods to obfuscate the font, so I mean encrypting in a way. But that poses a number of legal issues as well. And also that the EPUB, being HTML, contains valid information in the meta tags using Dublin Core as a standard. So it's also a different process of creation, because now what we do is we catalog the publication, as I said, with the metadata external to the file, while in EPUB we need to embed the metadata. As I said, the issues that we are finding and where we are having difficulties are on the distribution. The fact that releasing a publication in a specific store for a reader has its own processes, its own validation. Not all of them are the same. The process for Amazon is different, the process for Barnes & Noble, for the Kobo store, etc. So it's additional work for us to adapt our format, basically, to the vendor. The files need to be validated, and each vendor has different limitations on the file size, which also we are moving towards the lowest common denominator, but again, it has been a learning experience. And the other one is about the validation of the EPUBs. That, again, each vendor validates differently, even if there is an online validator, but there are certain criteria that might be different between the vendors. As part of this exercise, we discovered something which is at least surprising to me, is that among the many, many languages that Kindle supports, there's no half of our languages, so no Arabic, Chinese, or Russian. Japanese is there, so probably there is no issues technically. I don't know if the issues are political, but the thing is that also that limits our distribution. This is an example, being one of the bigger players in the market. What we have learned now the type of needs that we have, and I think is for this community to, when talking about the standards, consider some of this, is that there are very few guides on how to prepare files. Most of them are very technical and not oriented towards users, and that has created problems in our internal communication between publishing people and IT people, which normally don't talk to each other. It's not like the web. In the web, normally the web people talk to IT people. But in publishing, it's very different. It's rare. So, but it's, again, something changing. The way the table tag is treated in EPUB is particular in the fact that normally it should not be used for content, for creating columns, but basically for numbers. So validators normally find problems if we use tables to align, for instance, a list of acronyms. That's something also we learned, and now we are changing the way we produce this. The same with the JPEGs. Some of them are, the size of the JPEG could be limited. Most of the text boxes and tables in a normal publication have to be converted to JPEGs for an EPUB. And something which is a new development and is coming, is welcome from our perspective, is what is being called now a EPUB web. EPUB web, and this is taken from the white paper, is a proposed, well, I don't know if it's a standard, but it's an approach at least, to combine the way we produce things for the web with the way we produce publications. Now, e-publications basically are downloaded into the reader's device. And the proposal on working on these standards is to allow the people, the capacity, the user, to download the publication locally as an EPUB format, or also use it directly on the web. There are many cases in which this is very attractive for us, including annotations. We produce many, not only publications, but official documents that are discussed by delegates, etc. And the capacity to annotate online these documents and share those annotations or comments will be very useful. The other area where we have found difficulties is the difficulty in finding validators for EPUB. There's one online, but messages are normally very cryptic when there are errors. So it's basically a trial and error process because it's difficult to find what is the real issue there. What we are doing in our next steps is optimizing the conversion process. I mean, what we are deducting are rules. I mean, based on the mistakes we are finding with the vendors, et cetera, we are creating our own style guide or conversion rules. Also, the fact that we are working, as I said, with EPUBs, we have to put the content closest to the user compared with our approach with the web. With the web, we put the content on our website and wait for people to get it. With EPUBs, we have to get closer to the user, so we are working more and more with external organizations. Worldreader is an interesting organization we are working with. They distribute EPUBs on cell phones in Africa. And we have agreements for them to give them our content. All our content is free, so I mean, it's relatively easy to do that. We look in particular to the developments we are following, what's happening with the EPUB web, and again, on that area, I think it's a marriage or something of two institutions getting close because the EPUB format is developed by the IDPF. And this partnership work with the World Wide Web Consortium is trying to put those standards closest and allow for this possibility of using the same type of content both for the web and for EPUBs. Well, this is a presentation, and I hope it gives you an idea of what the challenges we are facing in this exercise. Thank you.